Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Blessed are you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. You have revealed to little ones the mysteries of your kingdom.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus proposed another parable to the crowds, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a man who sowed good seed in his field. While everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds all through the wheat and then went off. When the crop grew and bore fruit, the weeds appeared as well. The slaves of the householder came to him and said, 'Master, did you not sow good seed in our field? Where have the weeds come from?' He answered, 'An enemy has done this.' His slaves said to him, 'Do you want us to go and pull them up?' He replied, 'No. If you pull up the weeds, you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until harvest. Then at harvest time, I will say to the harvesters, first collect the weeds and untie them in bundles for burning. But gather the wheat into my barn.' He proposed another parable to them. 'The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that a person took and sowed in a field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, yet when full grown, it is the largest of plants. It becomes a large bush, and the birds of the sky come and dwell in its branches.' He spoke to them in another parable. 'The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of wheat flour until the whole batch was leavened.' All these things Jesus spoke to the crowds in parables. He spoke to them only in parables, to fulfill what had been said through the prophet. 'I will open my mouth in parables. I will announce what was lain hidden from the foundation of the world.' Then, dismissing the crowds, he went to the house, and his disciples approached him and said, 'Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field.' He said in reply, 'He who sows good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed to children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. Just as weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all who cause others to sin and all evildoers. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun, and the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears ought to hear.'" The Gospel of the Lord. It seems like these parables, they don't have any connection in what they do with each other, just kind of parable after parable, this and that, and then this and then that. But that's not quite exactly, they're next to each other for a purpose. It's a continuation of thought. And actually, when you look at it, it starts off with the parable, the man sowing good seed, and then the enemy sowing the bad stuff. And then at the end of this reading, he kind of recaps it, and he goes over and explains it. So what happens between these things have a relation to each other. When he talks about, and he's explaining, working my way backwards on this reading, when he's talking about this, he talks about the children of the kingdom. We want to be on that side. That's a good thing. And then the children of the devil, those who do evil. So we want to do good things, not evil things, right? That's the whole point in that. And but to do what is good We have to have faith. And that's why it brings us to that parable of the mustard seed, right? We have to have faith because, especially at today's standards, it is not easy to practice our faith. I mean, make the sign of the cross in public? I mean, wow, that'd be kind of, what are you doing? Is that religious stuff? Right? Make a sign of the cross. I mean, you say grace before meals. You actually do that still, right? That's the way the world thinks. You actually believe in God? Really? Right? I mean, that's the way the world is. And the TV and everything in it likes to steal us away from God and from being in God's arms. But we have to have faith to do that. We have to be strong in our faith, steadfast in our faith, not be afraid to proclaim the truth of Jesus Christ, to proclaim the love of God. And so it's hard. You have to be strong. You have to be persevering. You have to not care what the world thinks. You have to cast aside the things of the world. And the example I'll give to you also is because it's NFP week. So starting NFP week, it's not easy to practice NFP in today's standards because, oh, you do that? What? That old stuff, oh, not the church stuff, they're just being meanies, controlling you. No. So let this be an infomercial for you, okay, for NFP. NFP is really an awesome gift that we have. First of all, the divorce rate of those who practice NFP, natural family planning. All right, if you're not familiar with what NFP is, it's natural family planning. It is a wonderful gift. The divorce rate of those who practice NFP, 2%. Hello? 2% divorce rate for those who practice NFP. That's got to get your attention. The rest of the world, 50%. 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I can't, how many of the kids can count up to 50, right? I mean, blows it away. No comparison. That's got to kind of make you think, why? I mean, what's going on there? And then people want to say, well, what about the birth rate we got to control? Well, first of all, I don't believe in the population control lie because it's a lie. The people who made it up actually admitted it. It was a lie. It is a lie. But secondly, if you do have to space your births, NFP offers that ability. And it doesn't just do that. Infertility is a major problem today. It actually helps you conceive a child if you want to have a child. And the effectiveness of it is, at minimum, 80% if you're really lackadaisical about it. If you're on top of it, it's 99% effective. Wow. And it helps you have children as well as space the births if you need to do that. You're trying to discern God's will for you. Now, the difference between the NFP and contraception is that contraception says, I don't want creation to be in this act. Whereas NFP is still open to it. There's not that barrier you're putting between yourself and God. Contraception says, I do not want God in this act because I don't want the Creator to be there. The Creator is love itself. He is the source of all love. So what you're saying, by kicking out the Creator, you are kicking out God. You are kicking out love. And it turns that act into an act of love, of self-giving, into an act of lust. It makes it easier for men to use women as objects. I will use this person without having to worry about any repercussions of my actions. That's what contraception does. So, and in the meantime, the women can use the men as objects. I can get whatever I want without any repercussions to it. I can use him as my object as well. What does that say about marriage? When you contracept within marriage, it becomes a contract of mutual use as opposed to a covenant, a sharing of very persons to each other. Because that is the very nature, as God designed it, for the marital act. The marital act is to be a sharing in your very being totally, where you give yourself to your spouse totally, having nothing back. Imagine this, it's a free fall of love to your spouse. Imagine if you had that experience in the marital act, a total free fall of love to your spouse. Can you imagine what your relationship would be like with your spouse? This is what NFP offers. It is total love for your spouse. It brings you your dignity, because men usually, when you see the beauty of each other, how God wonderfully created each other for each other, you'd be like, wait a minute, I would never want to offend them. I see the beauty of the other. That's awesome. I would never want to offend that. You see how your dignity is restored, not taken away. And through the making that clear choice to trust in God, to have that mustard seed of faith, to go to Him and to trust in His divine will, not our own will. Realize also the other aspect of things, that what the world offers. Mutual use. And we see it in the tabloids. What's even worse is pornography. Realize this, women and men. You need to realize this is huge. This is a huge problem. The pornography industry makes more money than the entire computer industry, airline industry, and car industry combined. That's staggering. Computer, airline, and auto all those companies combined, they make trillions of dollars, and they invest billions, not millions, billions of dollars to try to get your men to look at pornography so that they can have that $1 trillion return. They investigate, they use science behind it. Even in colleges, if somebody goes to college and they're trying to learn how to build a website, do you know where they go to learn how to build websites and how to teach the kids where to build websites? They tell them to go to a pornography site, because there is so much science behind a pornography site to grab your attention, to get you to click on that button without thinking. They learn to do that. So colleges are even behind the times on web technology. Pornography is paving the way for pornography. Think about that. Families have a lot, they have to work hard, very hard, at preserving the family unit. And pornography is tearing it apart. It's tearing apart the family. It is getting people to look at people, at the other, as an object. Look at family as a mere contract of terms where we exchange goods, not persons. It takes away their dignity. NFP is a great tool to fight against that. Because why? You have to have that intimate relationship with each other. You have to talk about the biochemistry going on into the woman's body. That's intimate stuff. That means you have to, as husband and wife, talk to each other about intimate things. That's a good thing. How many husbands and wives don't even talk to each other, let alone talk about intimate things? If you have that conversation, your relationship's going to keep going. If you don't have conversation, that relationship's going to kind of die, isn't it? It forces you to have that conversation. In the meantime, when I talk to most men, they start to see how wonderfully and beautifully their spouse is made. They're like, wow, I never knew this. This is awesome. And they fall more in love with their wife. And it helps them. It's not a miracle work. It helps them to fight against the billboards, the sexy stuff on TV, which actually demeans women. What, you got to be subservient to the man, you got to be sexy. You see how the world takes us down the wrong path? This is the gift that we have in the church. It's not easy to practice NFP. I would encourage you, don't take my word for it. Ask the women who practice NFP. Ask the men who practice NFP with their wife. Let them tell you how great it's been, how it's transformed their marriage, how it's helped them. It's such a wonderful gift. But it takes faith. Now, a lot of these people who practice NFP, they're not very outgoing with it. Why? Because it's hard. You know, you got to have that mustard seed of faith just to practice it. Because, you know, the people who practice NFP, the people who have children, what do they get from the world? Oh, what? You can't control yourself? I mean, rude things like that. How mean is that? What? Babies are evil? As if you can't propagate your own kind? Holy cow. Have we become Nazis in this country? Have we become KKK members where we got to look at people or babies as some sort of evil? Wow. Don't be afraid. And hopefully this is a good infomercial for you. Look at it a second time. The NFP of the 1950s has progressed so much. There's so much science behind it. I actually know a couple who was, they were married, I think, for about 15 years. They couldn't conceive a child. So they started practicing NFP, went to doctors, and they're on their 4th child now. And they weren't mistakes. They were just so joyful about their babies. So I encourage you, if it doesn't apply to you yourself, encourage others. Speak positively about it, even if you don't practice it. Because this is a gift that the church has given us, and you don't have to be Catholic to practice it. Anybody can do it. If they have faith, it sure helps today. And I encourage you to have faith today so that you can practice what Jesus Christ teaches, whether it's NFP or anything that the church teaches.